London bylaw officer sting hospital driver. For more than 3 years, the woman has been a regular at an outpatient clinic at St. Joseph's Hospital, providing rides to and from the clinic to patients who aren't allowed to drive after being sedated for procedures such as endoscopies and colonoscopies. And there's a copy of the ticket that she received. A London woman who survived breast cancer isn't faring so well against city bylaw officers who fined her $2,260 for providing a service to patients that medical staff say is invaluable. For more than 3 years, the woman has been a regular at an outpatient clinic at St. Joseph's Hospital, providing rides to and from the clinic to patients who aren't allowed to drive after being sedated for procedures such as endoscopies and colonoscopies. She refused tips, at first charged only $10 a round trip, an amount to cover the cost of gas and maintenance. Her work so appreciated by medical staff that many consider her a critical volunteer. She offers to get patients safely situated at home rather than drop them off at the curb. But years of good deeds may have come to an end after bylaw officers arranged a sting operation February 15, 2018. An enforcement officer called her for a ride, saying he was a patient getting a colonoscopy. She even provided words of reassurance on the ride to the hospital. But after he paid her, another enforcement officer ran over and issued her... Sorry, I'll start that again. But years of good deeds may have come to an end after bylaw officers arranged a sting operation February 15th. An enforcement officer called her for a ride, saying he was a patient getting a colonoscopy. She even provided words of reassurance on the ride to the hospital. But after he paid her, another enforcement officer ran over and issued her 2 tickets for owning and operating a vehicle for hire without a license. "I'm devastated," she said. "I had cancer and I just wanted to give back to the community." The 58-year-old woman does not want to be identified by name because she relies on provincial disability payments that might be clawed back or subjected to bureaucratic barriers if officials knew what she's been doing. It was 8 years ago that a mammogram found what turned out to be stage 3 breast cancer, the second worst kind, a diagnosis that brought with it chemotherapy, surgery, and radiation, and the end to a 30-year career in retail. "I battled it for 2 years. I lost my hair. You lose your dignity," she said. "I'm very fortunate to be here, and that's why I wanted to give back, because I know the good Lord gave me a second chance." It was when she later had her own colonoscopy that she saw how badly in need the hospital was for drivers. The options that did exist were prohibitively expensive. Since then, she's provided about 20 round-trip rides a month, raising her price to $12 this year. "I had cancer and I just wanted to give back to the community." Patients are greeted with a bottle of water and a friendly greeting and a reassuring hand. "I treat them well, the way I want to be treated," she said. Her clients include a couple of police officers. That's why she was stunned that she became the target of a sting by bylaw enforcement. "I'm really heart-struck. I can't believe the city actually pulled this on me. It's not like I'm actually making money on this. The head of city bylaw enforcement, Arrest Cadillac, confirms the city investigated after receiving a complaint and that charges were laid, but that he doesn't discuss specific charges or operating techniques. The possible loss of her services angered doctors and staff, said Chris Vinden, who performs endoscopies and colonoscopies. From my point of view, she is providing a service to the hospital. It makes the hospital run more efficiently, he said. Between 40 and 50 people come each day. The clinic is open, and while most arrange for another adult to drive them, some do not, either because their spouse can't afford to take a day off, they're elderly and don't have friends who drive, or they don't have an adult friend to ask. She solved a lot of problems for us, Vinden said. If she can't resume her services, some patients may delay needed procedures, he said. The woman also faces a $450 bill for paralegals to represent her in dealing with bylaw charges. London City Council created a vehicle for hire bylaw in April to deal with the arrival of rideshare giant Uber, whose presence shook the traditional taxi industry. And I also read somewhere else relating to the same story that there was a GoFundMe page set up for her, and she was looking to raise the goal was $2,260, but in fact $4,700 was raised to go towards paying this ticket as well as paralegal fees. I think I would guess that many people that are watching my video right now have probably been in situations where they were caught breaking minor laws. You know, they might have been breaking a minor traffic law, like they might have been a few kilometers or a few miles over the speed limit, and a police officer just gave them a warning, or they might not have had their seatbelt on. The police officer just warned them to wear their seatbelt. And you might have even been in situations, I know I've had some situations myself where I was a few kilometers over the speed limits, and the police just warned me to slow down. I've had some parking situations. I had this one parking situation where I was parked in a no stopping zone in Toronto because at the time I was doing courier deliveries with my car. And I put on my four-way flashers. It was around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, which is right around the time that this particular stretch of road becomes a no stopping zone. So it just took me literally like 2 minutes to run in and make this delivery and then run back out to my car. When I got back out there was a parking enforcement vehicle sitting behind me. He just blew his horn at me for me to move along. There's another time I got a parking ticket doing that same job in a different part of downtown Toronto, where I got a ticket because there was nowhere else for me to park. I went over to the parking enforcer and I explained the situation to him, that I was just gone for 2 minutes. I had nowhere else to park. I wanted to park in a way that I'd be obstructing the least amount of traffic. This parking enforcement officer was nice enough to void that ticket for me. The point I'm trying to make here is that law enforcement officers, in many cases, have the discretion, they have the option of using their discretion, and they don't always have to issue tickets against people. They can have a bit of compassion, they can use their discretion and give people just warnings. I mean, come on, man, have some compassion for this woman. This woman wasn't out wantonly trying to make a profit, trying to get rich, and trying to scam the system. This woman was providing a compassionate service that was endorsed by many people who worked at that hospital and many patients. She was providing them she was providing round-trip rides for $12 to get to and from the hospital. In other words, $6 each way for people who, I'm sure in many cases probably had no other way of getting to and from the hospital. Not everyone is able to take the bus to and from the hospital because, many of these patients might be elderly, might be disabled. They might be unable to walk to and from a bus stop. And yes, we do have a bus service to provide service to people who are physically and mentally challenged. Well, at least physically challenged as far as I know anyways. But I'm sure that service is probably very busy and those people might not have been able to take that bus at the times that they needed it because they might not have had buses available because of because of how busy they are. Why aren't bylaw enforcement officers? Bylaw enforcement officers should be chasing down people that take their dogs out for a walk and refuse to clean up after their dog goes to the washroom on public property. Why not go after those people and ticket them? Go after people that litter. Go after people that illegally dump. But come on, this woman, yes, I know that bylaw enforcement officer might have been doing their job, but they set up a sting to bust this woman for transporting patients to and from medical appointments at the hospital or medical treatments. I don't know. To me, that just sounds incompassionate. I think that there's bigger and better things for bylaw enforcement officers to be dealing with. And that also says something that maybe they need to set up a legitimate legal service to get people to and from the hospital. As I say, it is good news that the GoFundMe campaign has raised around $4,700 or $4,800 to assist this woman, but to me, this is something that just shouldn't have occurred in the first place. We need a little bit more compassion in our society. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Thanks for watching.